Oh, boy, okay. All right, Dan, thank you.
All set.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 10th zoning board hearing. First item on the agenda would be set the next hearing date, which will be scheduled for, currently as we know it, February 14th. Couple of items just on the note before we open up for the hearings. You have an opportunity to have the minutes in front of you and reviewed. If you have, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mark to approve as submitted. Have a second?
Second.
Second by John. All those in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. Town council or our 40B coordinator, Jerry Moody, has sent over an update concerning a couple of the 40B projects and where they stand from an accounting standpoint. One of them is Brookview, the 40B project. It's just a follow-up letter from October 31st to inform us of the balance remaining after the peer reviews for services to the zoning board. Account was about $1,500. Since that time, CEI has submitted an invoice with outstanding balances for the BCS group, the traffic consultant, which they had neglected to previously submit. We have, of course, paid the bill from the funds available in the account, so we encouraged Brookview to replenish the account, as the account is now in the negative. Therefore, as they start to make these submissions as we go forward, they will need to get those accounts up and funded to the correct amount as was agreed by the contracts. Residents at Stone Ridge, again, their balance seems to be healthy at about $19,200. CEI has submitted payment invoices from the BCG group, and those invoices have been reviewed and validated, and those invoices have been paid, showing a balance of approximately $14,575 in their account. I'm sure as we go forward, this will continue to be updated. Concerning the Birch Street Place, this is also a follow-up from their original deposit amount. They'll also be available for future peer review as indicated. Since that time, CEI has provided the invoice for the work done by the BSC group for traffic services. It has been verified that the invoices are valid for the work done and have submitted those for payment. Last payment to CEI and for the BSC group reduces the amount which was available in the future of the peer reviews or other required services to $4,900. Again, as we move forward with the permitting process, those accounts may be modified and or updated as they go along. With that, if the board members don't have any questions, we will dive right into the hearing. You pass that now, Kelly, please. This will be on the application of bylaw signs. Is bylaw signs here? Come on up, sir. Please have a seat. Finally, we hope to rectify the situation after a couple of continuances and some clarifications on some of the stuff that you have done. So since we've never opened up this hearing, this particular hearing will be opened, and the 5 full-time members will hear it. So again, this is on the application of bylaw signs of Greeley Street, Hudson, New Hampshire, for a variance for the provisions of sections 3.9.6.1, 3.9.6.2, and 3.9.7.10, and 3.9.7.12, as the provisions in relation to a parcel of land known as 100 Medway Road, containing 2.3 acres of parcel of land, which is owned by Kevin Meehan of Exbridge Road in Mendon. The variance relief is sought in order to permit the erection of a sign whose computed sign area exceeds the amount allowed by the district for multifaceted signs, and exceeds the number of various signs allowed based on the street frontage towards the signs are orientated as they are limited by the bylaw. With that in the file, and I want to make note to the board members, and I appreciate the applicants following through. The application process has now been edited and modified. Along with town council and the land planning department, have modified the application process, has streamlined it, and also we've put in checks and balances by department. As we move forward, you'll get to see the difference of how these hearings and the paperwork streams through, and it just becomes much more efficient, especially when it comes down to certain departments being able to understand what each applicant and what their identifications of what they're trying to do stipulate. So with that, on the current Barlow application, when it was asked by the question of what circumstances relate to the soil conditions and shape and topography, basically the applicant says that the sign would go unnoticed in comparison to other very large signs on the street, confusing motorists to believe that there may be only one tenant in the building. It would also keep the lot dark and less appealing due to the abutting properties in the cemetery, and of course on the construction of the site, that's abutting the site. State why you feel that the grant of the variance will not cause a substantial detriment to the public good. The applicant indicates that the signs of this scale already exist on Medway Road. The property identify their multiple tenants on their particular properties. Therefore, with that, sir, why don't we turn it over to you? If you've got some renderings, can you post them up there on the blackboard for us?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again. My name is Craig Moore. I'm with Barlow Signs, and I'll start off by saying that I'm representing this building and the tenants, and one of the lead gentlemen, Patrick Assoon, apologizes for not making it tonight. He was very ill. He wanted to be here. He was here last month when we continued, but he encouraged me to move forward due to the continuance that we've already proceeded. I did bring a couple copies here, 4 copies of the same sign. We haven't changed any of the details besides we wanted to show you what it would look like fully occupied. These are actual tenants that are in the building, and this is the way it would be represented. I thought it would be a better presentation that way. So if I could approach the board and pass those, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't have enough, we can share. Not a problem.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I will actually. I'll stick one or two so I can make yours on top. As mentioned, I've been in front of this board before, and I came back. We had to review some of the processes internally, or review some of the information internally, hence the continuance, and also provide a little bit more information back to you folks. So I'll give you a brief recap of what we're trying to accomplish here. And what you see is a sign, a double-sided illuminated sign, that is to represent the tenants at 100 Medway Road. This building is seeking a larger sign than what's allowed due to the amount of tenants in the building, the size of the building, and the property that it lies. One of the main obstacles for this building is the lack of wall space that most buildings would allow for signage. It's just not appropriate due to the historic setting and the layout of the building to actually populate the side of this building with multiple signs. Nevertheless, we don't feel it's actually adequate and would do justice if we had signage on this building. So what our thought process is here is to have an increased sign, one sign on the ground that allows the tenants the visibility for this roadway. There's only one entrance to the property, and that entrance is approached very quickly. So it's important to relay who's in there. It may not be necessarily for people that are passing by looking to turn in quickly just to go into these places, but it's more or less, it gives the businesses the appropriate identification, so when it comes time, hence a real estate agent or an attorney of those type of natures, it gives them the adequate advertising that they could benefit from. Some of the things I've touched on in the past are the surrounding signage that's up and down this street. And I know I'm trying to compare to retail outlets, but again, these retail outlets have multiple tenants. They have a large sign out by the street to advertise their services, but they also have the benefit of wall space to have a secondary sign mounted on the wall that this building's not allowing them to have. We went back to the drawing board, we added in tenants that actually exist in this building. We wanted to show you how this sign would be populated, and I think that's just a brief rundown of what it is. I'm interested to hear the board's input and help answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Just to put it into the notes for the meeting, the planning board reviewed this on September 17th and at the regular scheduled meeting and recommended an unfavorable recommendation. I don't see a letter in this one here from town planner Larry Duncan, as he usually does, but I'll continue to search the file here while the board members ask questions. So, Tim, I'll start down with you. If you have any concerns or questions or comments,
Not at this time.
okay? John, nothing? Okay,
No, nothing for me.
nothing for you? John?
What is the frontage for that property?
200 and, on the
200.
last page, I think it's 230 linear feet of road frontage.
Sorry.
Yep.
The quick question I have for you right out of the gate, just so that, because I know that, because of the continuances, I asked a couple of questions. How much out of the signing guideline bylaw in square feet is the sign?
So the allowed would be 1 square foot per linear foot, which would allow us 230 square feet. We are at 339.7.
Okay. Okay. John, Mark?
First question is, this thing's the height of a telephone pole.
That is true. It is actually at the allowed height. 30 feet is allowed by right. I'm not looking for relief there.
You're looking at
It's the
100 square
footage.
feet more than what you actually
That's
entitled to.
So where is your overage? What do you-
It's in the overall body of the sign at the square foot. It's not the height or the setback.
So the
We'll meet
confusion between-
we'll meet setback and we'll meet height.
So the fusion between the building department and the planning department, that got rectified because originally you may have thought that you were fine. You were fine with height, you weren't fine with the body.
That is correct, because part of the code lists you're allowed 4 square feet per linear foot, but that's a combination of building signage and ground signage. So when it came to ground signage, it says 1 square foot per linear foot by right. So that's where we're seeking the relief, is because we feel that by not littering this building with signage, we're just going to combine it all into one ground sign, that we'd be doing justice
And
here.
this is lighted.
That's correct.
Okay. With no message boards.
There's no message board, and it can be controlled by either a photo cell or a time clock if deemed necessary.
What's the illumination?
Everything's produced LED now.
I know, but I mean, how bright is it?
How many lumens?
Lumens, right?
We usually try to get under 90 lumens per square foot, which is industry standard.
Bob?
One last question. To the left, if I'm facing the building, to the left is a cemetery, correct?
Yes.
To the right?
To the right is I believe it's a bank, and there was some construction going on right there, but it is.
Shopping center.
It's the Red Heat Tavern.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just a little concerned if this sign is gonna block the view of anybody else looking down the road at a business to the left.
Well, I think that's the benefit of this setback here. Typically,
Yeah, that's the other question. How far back is it set from the
okay,
street?
so by right, it's a 0-foot setback. We're putting it in the middle of this island. We're going to be around 6 to 8 feet setback from the property line, not from the road.
Yeah, because you're gonna be in the state right away.
Right, we're not going to be in the state right away. We're 6 feet. Technically, we could request to be at 0, but we're not. We're going to be in the middle of this median, which is more aesthetically pleasing, and it fits in that space.
Yeah, it's set off.
What we're looking at is these tenants here, these the actual tenants?
They are, yes.
So if you minused off about 65 square feet, then you'd be around 274 square feet, and everyone would have an equal size sign. Why wouldn't that work?
Well, the idea is that the top tenants are seeing a majority of the volume that's coming through this building, and they're taking up.
And they're the biggest size tenants.
They're the majority leader in this building.
So if there was a recommendation to take the top tenant, and instead of him getting 5 feet, it gets reduced to 4, and the second tenant, which is the Milford Oral Surgical, they're at 4 feet, and they went down to 3 feet. 3 feet, is that something that you could live with?
I would have to say, for the sake of argument, yes.
Bobby?
Or could you, it's 12 feet 8 inches wide, could you shrink that down, keep the height, but decrease the width by, I don't know, I'm not good in mathing or calculating, but if you shrunk it to 12 feet 8 inches, what would that decrease 8 inches over 30 feet? I'm trying to, get
22
it
feet.
down a little bit.
It's about 22 feet.
Would be beneficial to.
Now, that instead of
24
12 8,
square
you're talking
feet.
about 12 feet.
Right, yeah, wide.
It's got a bit of square feet off it.
You can think about that question.
Yeah, I mean, I want to work with you folks. I know the folks over at this building want to work with you, so I mean, if we can come to some sort of a reason, I'm sure we could.
13 feet's pretty wide
Yeah.
for a sign. The height we.
Well, my next question was going to be, based on what you showed us tonight with the tenants, if the building ends up being, if the office space ends up being carved a little bit further,
This isn't.
then you could split that, you could split these,
Oh, 42.
and then have additional, so then it becomes really
179.
confusing. 'Cause now you're overburdening the sign with so much lettering, no one will ever see
They don't
it.
have to have
And that's-
the
that's
word
the
Medway
fear.
Road. They could
So
just
that's
have
why you
100
need to
on the
keep
top.
that one panel for one
Yeah, they
tenant,
could just.
you know, the ones that you have. Okay.
I got a question. And I've never seen this study done before, but I'm sure it exists. The distance that somebody can see the lettering on this sign and readable, you have some sort of idea what that is? I mean, right now, say, can you see this from 100 yards away, 50 yards away? Not the sign, but the actual
Sure.
detail of the
Rule
sign.
of thumb with clear sight is 1 inch for every 10 feet. So when you're talking about letter height that's 3 inches tall, technically you should be able to see it at 30 feet. But then there's a lot of other
30 feet in
factors.
a car's quick.
Yeah, so there's a lot of other factors that come into play. High rate of speed, nighttime, everything else, obstacles, you got someone in front of you. So that's just general rule of thumb for sight.
So reducing this by another 50, 70 square feet, would that be detrimental to that particular ratio you're speaking of?
Yeah, that's why I'm very careful with how much I agree to, whether we take off 8 inches off the width, because some of these are a little bit longer, or are we taking off a little bit out of the white space that might be created with Milford Oral Surgery or something like that.
This sign isn't something that's used for advertising, it's actually people heading to that destination that want to find it.
That is
It's not an
correct.
advertising type sign.
I say advertising because they have their name up there and they're a business, but it's not advertising as we're having we're having a fire sale or something like that.
Right,
These
but
are-
as
these are
per se, this
tenants-
isn't, oh my God, this place is here, I think I'll stop in. It's not that type of
24
business.
square feet.
Correct.
Reduced
Most of the time, this type of business is more of, you pass by it, you know it, and the day you need to go for
where
oral
it is.
surgery, or you need to see an attorney, or you need to see a real estate agent, you know where they're at.
So I'm getting at, it's not an advertising type sign.
Yeah, so like
More
if
of a
you
way
look
here,
for
sign.
Yeah.
That's correct. It's
You don't need the
identification.
word Medway. You can just have word 100 up there. Word Medway doesn't have to be there. And then if you minus off, that's probably 40, I don't know, 30 feet there. This is what he's proposing, 339.
Yeah.
So then if you shrink these a little bit, it's still 275. I don't know.
While we're moving on, Chris, do you have any comments?
What Mark had said earlier, wondering, driving down 109, now that that new mall's there, I wonder what if this sign is gonna block. We've had problems there with people trying to turn left in there as it is.
Right.
So at the last possible second, if these people, can't see what's on the left in that new shopping plaza there because of the sign.
Do you know where you place this in relation to the other sign? Is yours further in or out? Have you taken a look at that?
Yeah, it's actually further in. It's actually.
Yours is further in.
Yes.
That's what I thought, okay. If there isn't any questions from the board right now, I'll open it up to the public. Does anybody want to be heard on this? Tony, you have any comments?
No, and I'm just a tenant in the building myself.
But you also represent the building, I'm assuming, correct?
From a lease standpoint, yes.
So the tenants really are looking for some type of exposure.
Recognition, yes.
Without using the Goodyear blimp.
Any other comments? Okay. So based on what I'm hearing, I think the board members are thinking along the lines of height, you're fine. Width seems to be excessive. I don't know if that can go from 12.8 to 10 feet. And I think the top two tenants or the biggest panels should have some leeway to reduce the size of those. For instance, you have the,
Take some of these out.
if you have the, what it's called cosmetic implant, they're currently at 4 feet 9 inches. And if we go to 10, it'll be 4 feet 9 inches by, if we go to 4 feet, and then the one below that, instead of 4 feet, go to 3 feet, that will actually, you could even remove a panel or two, if you needed to, from the main body, because you've picked up an additional at least 2 feet or 3 feet.
Right, and as we show it today, I mean, the building is, would you say it's fully occupied at this point?
It's fully occupied. We have one tenant that's leaving, but
Okay.
at this point, it's fully occupied.
Because
So
the
the
people that...
panels that you currently have represent all of the office spaces available for lease, and you don't anticipate any carving up of anything smaller? You don't know?
That's always open to whatever happens in the future. Yes, some tenants may be
move this up.
larger, shrinking, and
I just
may
think
have
you
to
just go
split 'em up.
275.
I agree. That's not.
I can say that the sign has flexibility
And they can do
to be
like this
changed
on
down
the
the road,
top,
as a
and they-
lot of
they
new
get rid of all
newly
that.
constructed signs
You know
do.
what I mean?
If there needs to be an added divider bar or remove a divider bar to
Shrink
make
this, and they
room,
can maybe
that's
bring
the
it in 8
benefit of
inches
these
to
type
get
of
to
signs with the
275.
changeable faces.
I'm with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, the only thing I don't, personally, in my opinion, the only thing I don't want to see is, if this is granted, that those tenant panels from the main body don't get split in half. Specifically these.
Oh,
I don't
no.
want those,
No.
because you
Yeah.
won't be able to see them, and it'll just make it won't look good.
I agree with you as well, and that's why we're coming today, because of the visibility issue. I mean, if you have it too small, you might as well not have anything there at all.
So your height, you want to stay at this height, period.
Yes,
But the
because,
width-
it's because we have a 3'4" topper on there, that's just identification of the address.
So what the rest of the board is speaking of is trying to decrease the actual square footage. What can you live with?
Foot?
Are these panels, how thick are these panels, these white panels?
The actual thickness of the material.
Wide.
No, width.
Oh, the height of it, the
Dimension.
height of it.
You don't have, it doesn't say 6 inches?
11 feet. Right? Sorry, 11 inches, 11 and a half inches.
Oh, there it is, okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
11 and a half
The visible
inches.
space is 11 and a half inches, that's correct. Yep.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay,
I didn't see that.
so I don't hear anybody in the audience having any other comments. I think the board members want to work with this, so
I make one suggestion. Personally, just personally, I'd rather see the sign go off at this size and look more aesthetic than having the same height that he wants to keep and skinnier. I don't think that would look very as professional as this would. I'm not crazy about the square footage you want, make no mistake about that. But to do what you want to do, and I'm more concerned about setting a precedent down the road, too. So, that's all I got to say on it at this point.
Okay. So with that, I'll give you the last word before we close the hearing, and then we'll talk about how we can work through this.
No, I do appreciate your consideration, and I think one thing that's important to reiterate again, and I know you've already heard it, is the lack of wall signs, where we would be allowed to have wall signs and a ground sign, we're saying today that we're just looking for this ground sign, so.
So depending on how this ends up, if it's conditioned, this will be the only exterior signage on the building.
Well,
Besides the historic stuff, I think that lies today, right? Because
Well, there's like a clock on the building.
Says here it's being removed.
It's not really
Oh, this,
a sign.
what clock is being removed?
The clock that's.
It's,
On
no,
the side of the
On
building.
the side of the building.
it's up, it's right here.
That's where the sign is.
That's part of the,
But there's a clock on the building as well.
Does it work?
Yeah.
there is a sign on the side of the building today. Is that staying?
That is staying, and as I think I can interpret from the owners, they are not interested in adding any other signage on the building. That is part of the problem.
So basically, this is an addition to what is the square footage of the wall signs existing. So we're going even beyond the 339
Well,
square feet.
It actually doesn't exceed the other part of the code, which is you're allowed overall 4 square feet per every linear foot of property frontage. So you got 4 times 230 overall square footage that you're allowed on this property, and that amount of wall signage wouldn't put you over that.
And how big is that sign that's on there?
The national,
that's an historic
home national, I
It's-
didn't bring the specs
The thing
on.
is that the National isn't a tenant in the building, it's just.
That's what it was named.
Yeah, it's just
the
there.
architecture
Yep.
there, and we wanted to take it down because it just looks nice and.
The history of it.
And there's no plan of changing that.
No.
Okay, with that, we'll close the hearing. You've got your last word. Any other comments before we proceed forward?
I think that's it. Thank you for your
Great,
time.
thank you. Okay. It's the pleasure of the board.
I think they have to look at reducing the overall square footage somehow,
Okay.
my opinion.
All right, so we've got the height, and we've got the width of 12.8. Is there a recommendation to change the width from 12.8 to, call it 10?
I'll just make a motion that we do 275 square feet.
A reduction of 275 feet?
Yeah, he can just, with the width, he can do whatever
They
he
can do what
wants.
they want, yeah.
Yeah, they can fit whatever they want.
There's a motion on the table to reduce the signage square footage by 275 feet. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by John.
It's reduced to 275.
Correct.
Reduce to 275.
Reduce the sign 270, the size of the sign 275 square feet. All those in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. Great, thank you. I think you'll be able to work with that, right? Beautiful, thank you. Great, guys, thank you.
Instead of 339, 275. Which you have to cut off about, what, 60? Thank you, gentlemen.
You too.
Okay. We'll have to go through more continuances. All right, great. All right, which one's this? This is, it's on the application of Imperial Hyundai.
Sir.
Thank you.
Kelly, I'll pass this down for you, and you can put the attendance on that, please. Okay, this is on the application of Imperial Hyundai, 154 East Main Street, for a variance from the provisions of section 3.4.4 and D and I, or other applicable provisions of the bylaw to permit the construction of a landscape buffer strip smaller than the 15 feet depth required from the property known as 154 East Main Street, assesses map 33, lots 35, 36, 37, and 38, located in the commercial CV zoning district consisting of 4 acres more or less, which the parcel is now owned by Milford East Main LLC, Causeway Street in Milford. what I will do is I will, before we get into the application, I will read this. This came from the planning board. The planning board reviewed the petition listed above at the regular scheduled meeting held on 11/20 and recommends the following. Unfavorable, see attached town plan letter. I'll paraphrase this. The site plan approved by the planning board in 2015 for the site required that the frontage along Hamilton Street be limited to 2 driveways, with the remaining Hamilton Street frontage being developed with landscape buffers. Similar in 2015, the planning board and the zoning board of appeals severely limited O'Reilly's Auto Parts to only 1 driveway along the westerly side of Hamilton Street and frontage. In 2017, in January, the planning board approved the current site plan for the Hyundai dealership, which retained the driveway and landscape buffer configurations previously approved along Hamilton Street. These actions resulted in the clear, visible definition of Hamilton Street, which is a public way. For public safety purposes, the zoning bylaw provides for limiting driveway curb cuts to 1 driveway every 200 feet of street frontage in commercial districts. In addition, the bylaw also prohibits vehicles backing into the public way. These public safety requirements are in turn reinforced with the landscape buffer requirements. There's absolutely no hardship whatsoever relating to the property with regard to the landscaping along Hamilton Street. The current approved site plan provides more than sufficient circulation, parking, and display areas on the 2.7-acre site to operate a dealership while maintaining public safety along the Hamilton East Main Street. Therefore, they recommended an unfavorable report sent off to the zoning board. Concerning the petition for the variance, I'll take a motion to dispense, if that's
I'll make a motion.
a motion by John to dispense with the reading of the application in detail, as long as what's being presented is exactly as it reiterates in the application. Is that true?
Yes.
That's true. With that, I need a vote. All those in favor to dispense with the reading signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Therefore, I'll turn it over to Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Joseph Antonellis on behalf of the applicant. With me tonight is John Nenard, who's the project manager for the owner of the property, and has been involved in the site plan development and the redevelopment of this property. You're all Milfordians. I know you all recognize that this particular parcel of property has long been used as a new car dealership. We all grew up remembering that it was Scott Ahern Chevrolet, and then transferred over to Mr. Rizzoli, and then subsequently to Mr. Meehan. The property was altered for use or change of use to a gym. The site plan that is referenced was primarily for the gym when it was being used more for what one would consider more actual access to and from the property. It is now housing the Hyundai dealership, which has a subdivision within it for Odyssey, which is one of their lines. I recognize the planning board's concerns about protecting access onto Hamilton Street, and I was very involved in the petition for O'Reilly Auto Parts, and this board was involved with it also off of an appeal from the site plan. And I want to say for the record that the important part about Hamilton Street, as we see it as it relates to the landscape island, which is there to prevent access to and from Hamilton Street from the side of this property, is that while there are cars parked there, this is not in this area. The Hamilton Street side of this building is not a parking lot. It is not there for the purpose of consumers who come to and from the dealership to park their cars while they are shopping. Rather, it is an area for the placement of automobiles that are part of the ongoing storage on the property. And the essential part of leaving Hamilton Street side as it is that it provides the best manner for which to for us to move cars around on the property. And those are moved by our staff when a dealer plate is placed on the car. And those cars, again, we're not talking about consumers driving in and out, but rather we're talking about the employees of the Hyundai dealership moving cars out onto Hamilton Street. And then if I may, I'll get up and point, is that what we have is you see the existing curb cut on Hamilton Street that was supposed to have been left open according to the site plan. That is not in red. What you have is one entrance only that has been put into the site plan for the purpose of, again, manipulating the cars on the property. So to the extent that someone wants a car that's in the middle of a stack here, and you can see the cars stacked on the pictures, okay? Right here, okay? So this is what they look. So let's just assume arguendo, this white car behind is the one that someone wants. Then this car would have a dealer plate put on it, pulled out onto Hamilton Street, go up Hamilton Street to this entrance, come back in across the property, and then be requayed by coming in. Then every car would move forward along the line, and then we recreate the parking along Hamilton Street. And again, that is not a consumer area, that's not an area that is provided with designated parking spaces for you or anyone else to drive into, park their car, and then go into the Hyundai dealership. And to the extent that the board believes that our arguments are worthy of merit tonight, any kind of a stipulation in the decision that no consumer parking be allowed on Hamilton Street is something, a condition not only that we can live with, but one that I would suggest. Because again, we're not here to try and manipulate the situation to get parking for consumers as one would in a retail establishment. Rather, what we're trying to do is to provide the best way to manipulate the placement of cars that are being sold to consumers. And again, as relates to unique aspects of this, you know, most of the dealerships that are in existence now are on parcels of property that were never used in the past, and zoning bylaws fit very nicely to open parcels of property. To undeveloped parcels of property, one can take a zoning bylaw, place it on that square or rectangular parcel of property, and figure out how best to comply with each and every zoning bylaw and be allowed to run a business that way. But when you have an existing parcel of property that's in the most busy area in the town of Milford, a highly trafficked area with a use that's been there for such a long time, I believe that you have to look at it a little differently and try and find a way to allow for the business to exist within the community without creating intrusions. If we have to change this and we lose this spot along Hamilton Street by giving up 15 feet, we push everything back and we put a tremendous stress on the area of the building. And what we think will happen is that we'll have to start using the East Main Street entrance, which is the primary business entrance for this facility, for purposes of moving cars. And again, we believe that in the long run, there will be less intrusion to the whole neighborhood by allowing us to keep these cars here, which prohibit anyone else from going out there, because you're not gonna drive through the cars, okay? It keeps the traffic on Hamilton Street limited, because again, there's not customers going out there. Again, I'll note for you, this is a one-way in that we use primarily. It's not, you know, someone coming in for service might be directed there, but that whole area in there is for the overall general use of the building. So it's our position that the waiver of the 15, the variance from the 15-foot landscaping will provide a better way to manipulate the activities on the property, reduce the number of trips that are made onto East Main Street, and we believe create a much safer situation. And feel strongly enough about it that we're here asking for a variance. I mean, we've gone through site plan, and I want to note for the record that there has been landscaping installed along all of East Main Street, which we recognize to be the part of one street here, obviously, that seems to be the predominant traffic area. I'm very well aware of Hamilton Street, having grown up here. I know it's a one-way street, I know where it ends up. And I know that it's been used traditionally as a cut-through between Route 16 and 85. It was when all of us were growing up and learning how to drive, and it is today. And what we think is that by keeping these cars here, we actually reduce the intrusion. Certainly, we're gonna pull cars out into Hamilton Street, but we're not going up very far. We're coming right back in, all within the commercial zone. And so I'd ask that you look at this parcel as a highly developed parcel, a parcel that's been developed for all of our lifetimes, and that this is simply a way for us to keep an active business there. The Hyundai dealership was a very difficult dealership to get. Very hard to find car dealerships to come in to communities that are as congested as Milford is here. We recognize that most of My client's car dealerships are in the town to the west of us, on a large parcel of property where he had multiple abilities to manipulate that property for all of those cars there. Not so here. So John is here to answer any specific questions about the length of the landscaping island or any other aspects relative to the site that you find important. And to that end, Mr. Chairman, I certainly turn it back to the board.
Okay, great, thank you. I'll start with Tim.
Yeah, before the gym, is this how Hamilton was used?
So, yes, before the gym, this was always display vehicles along Hamilton
Okay.
Street. When the gym was permitted, of course, the gym has people driving in
Right.
and out, and this curb cut was installed for the gym.
That's it.
And it's just unrelative. That curb cut that's shown,
Yeah.
if the board grants the relief tonight, that will not exist.
Joe did mention about service, so all the service traffic, none of the service traffic goes down the one-way anymore. It's an indoor service center now. They drive in, they drive straight through, and they come out another door here on this side and then back out. So all the traffic for Hyundai goes in and out of East Main Street.
John?
Obviously, I know Mr. Antonellis knows that I'm a resident of Hamilton Street. I don't care how much you say that the employees enter or exit the back of that building. I go in there every single day, at least twice a day. At least once out of those 2 times a day, there's a car coming out of Hamilton Street, which is a one-way. Now, can I say they are all coming from Hyundai or Imperial? No, I can't. But I can guarantee you that at least once a day, cars are coming out of Hamilton Street the wrong way onto East Main Street. Problem that I have with this is the cars that are parked facing Hamilton Street in the lot. When the winter comes and the road is plowed, for some reason, those cars come out a little more closer to Hamilton Street. My suggestion is, the landscaping that you have in the front of the building, why can't that be provided on the side? That same type of landscaping.
So it's just the functioning
And when you
of-
talk about a curb cut, there's no curb cut there. Where those cars are parked, that's open. That's all open.
Correct, it is open now.
There's no curb cut there.
No, there is not.
No.
And and a curb cut would normally be used for customers. There is no curb cut here because this is just display. And the reason that we don't want a landscape buffer there is for exactly what Mr. Antonellis said, was for the flow of the lot. It is such a tight lot, the building is pre-existing non-conforming, pushed all the way to the left of the lot. We want to display cars in front. When you put 4 or 5 cars in a row here, there's no way to get to this car to get it out this way. We're very limited for, you can see the drive aisles, we're very limited for space to pull 5 cars out this way, park them here to get to the 1 car here. By allowing us not to have the landscape island there, that allows us to just swing around, come back and push these cars forward, and we're back where we are. We don't have to bring 5 cars, clog up this whole area where the customers are coming, just to get 1 car. We're not pulling out 100 cars a day. It's only if a customer wants a car in probably these first 2 rows, or the first 3 rows, because if it's these 3, they will pull out 1 or 2 cars here to get a car out this way. But if it's these 3 rows, we would rather come this way because we don't have to move 4 or 5 cars to get at that car. We bring 1 car around for a customer to take it for a test drive. Once in a great while do these cars get jumbled around, but it's not like a daily occurrence. Personally, I've been with the company 2.5 years. I know you live on the street. I've been in and out of this during construction and after construction since I've gone to work for the Meehan Group, and I've never seen them move cars out more than one car on any given day. I just don't see a safety issue. I don't believe there's been an accident with any of our vehicles ever on the site. Personally, since I've gotten there, we have painted a line down along the property line, and I've been trying my best to drive by there and make sure that all the cars are behind that. Larry Duncan calls me if he sees a car pass that line, and I call Mike Penner, and they have been moving them back and keeping them behind that line since the Hyundai dealership's been built. I know one time they were out past the line, Larry Duncan called me, I called Mike Penner, and he had the guys go out and push them all back. So we're trying our best to keep them back from the property line. I don't live on the street, so if you say they creep out, I'm new to this company also, so I believe that you are. All I can say is that we will watch it and make sure they don't creep out.
On the Hamilton Street side, why do you need to get cars that are 3 and 4 deep when there's an area to the right rear of the dealership in the parking lot over here,
Yeah.
where there's a lot of vacant area?
It's not. Those are minimum drive aisles and minimum parking spaces, and it's loaded with cars. If you go out there, every space has cars in it. This is for customer parking for service. So these are customer parking spaces over here, not display spaces. These are bigger spaces. That's why it looks like there's more room. They have to meet the specific drive aisle width of 24 feet, and each space has to be 9 by 18. These display spaces are smaller. They're only drawn at 8 by 16 inches for display because they're not part of the customer parking lot. So these are packed in here, 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 and here, and this is customer parking here and here. So that's why it looks like there's a lot more space out here. It's because it's the width of the drive aisles for the customers that are set by zoning, and the size of the islands and the spaces for customer parking, for service over there.
Another thing is, there's no signs on the property that say, do not exit left on
Yeah, so
Hamilton Street.
we would be fine.
There's nothing.
I would
There's
be
nothing.
fine with adding signage. I do not have a problem with that. I didn't ever realize that anybody ever came up Hamilton this way.
It's every
I had
day.
no idea. So
I can assure you, it's every single day.
I'm aware of it, Mr. Dagny.
That's
every
the
single
first.
day.
That's the
It's
first I've
always,
heard about
it happens. And,
So
you
we
know,
could-
but it's happened a long time.
Now, whether they come from O'Reilly's, whether they come all the ways from Cedar Street,
Back.
which happens frequently too. They come from Cedar up to East Main.
I know
to
that.
Avoid the lights on Cedar.
So I have no problem putting signage over at this exit that it's a left turn only. I have no problem putting a sign on our property if we can, anywhere near that it's, that it would be a right turn only, that there would be no left turn. I don't have a problem with that. We can add signage.
Well, those beds you have over on the left side there of the dealership, those, you have the berm, and then you have the mulch in there or whatever's
Oh,
in
yeah.
there. I mean, sometimes that becomes overgrown. It's ridiculous
Yeah,
the way it looks.
So part of this right in here is,
yeah.
part of this plan is to rip that out and replace that with new landscaping. That's part of the amended site plan, and I believe it says it on the variance plan that was submitted.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
And John brought up a good point concerning people worried coming down the one way. Where you have your proposed curb cut there between the two red lines.
Yeah, that's not gonna exist anymore. That's gonna be all display spaces.
Okay, my question was, if that was left open and a curb cut, and I'm only asking, a curb cut, is there a way that you can put a sign there if there was a little,
There's no customers coming through there. This is all vehicles right up to the beginning.
So-
There's no drive aisle
so
through there.
why did you just, I'm just asking a question. Why is this in a break here with the red?
Because
I
that was,
was only trying to show what was on the
what was on the
original
approved
plan.
site
Oh,
plan.
okay,
What was
I
on
got
the
it.
approved site plan.
Those,
You can
we'll
see
we'll
there's
use
parking
those spaces up.
there.
Okay.
Those will be display spaces now.
Those will
There'll
be,
no
right.
opening there.
That opening will be gone.
So the red is just what was shown on the original site plan for where there would be landscaping. I just colored that in to show you what we're asking for relief on.
In fact, that site plan that was approved required us to have that exit there.
Yeah, I didn't care, I don't care for that.
Yeah, and so again, that will go away, and what John did was, again, just try to show the plan as it was approved. The red area is what, quote unquote, was just imposed for a landscape.
Is
So the
it
original-
possible, and I know it's a display area for cars, to put a pole sign there and have a sign wrong way?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because I think that is a key component to make sure that, whether.
Actually, we could, yeah, we could put it anywhere you want.
Well, I'd like to see it,
Right in here?
yeah, to a point where if someone turns out of O'Reilly's, someone's
Yeah,
gonna
so
hit it.
I'm not quite sure where they're.
They have a back entrance
a
back there.
Yeah, so we could put it right directly across from it. That, left
I
turn
think that would
only.
be very
one way.
helpful.
Yeah,
That would
I
be
don't have a
very
problem with that
helpful.
at all.
How about putting a 12-inch yellow strip all the way down for the cars? so they
Yeah,
don't
right now,
slip?
there's a 6-inch yellow strip all the way down.
All right, so we'll make it 12 inches?
Sure.
Okay,
That's not an issue either.
okay.
So as a further demarcation.
Yeah.
What Mr. Dagny said about how they creep out.
Yeah.
So you'd have that as the line, no car onto the yellow.
Yes. Yeah,
Not a problem.
okay.
John?
So is the only entrance then off of East Main Street?
Yes, the only
like
entrance in
that.
and out is off
Okay.
the East
I
Main
like that.
Street.
Yep,
We
okay.
actually closed up a second curb cut that was here. So we would be closing 2 curb cuts to the site, and now we will have 1 in and out and 1 in. So we'll have 2 ins and 1 out.
Have you got a sign out there marking in only or one-way only?
Yes, there's well, there's painted signage going down here.
So none of your employees come out the back of the dealership
I can't say
and
that.
bang a left, huh?
Right here.
Is there signage?
You mean the right? You
Bang
mean
on-
the right?
No, I think
Oh, take a
you're
look.
asking if they think it'll have to be that car coming down the wrong way street.
I don't know that. I can't answer
If there's a
that.
problem with that, then there'll be a sign placed that says no left turn.
Well, I don't,
Yeah.
if
But-
I'm there, I go the right way on Hamilton.
But certainly it would appear that if anybody's coming out that way, it would be an employee or a
Or O'Reilly. I can't
or someone who gets lost in our parking lot. So to the extent that a sign saying no left turn there would help to cut, that is not a problem.
I can put multiple signs. I can put one here saying, no left turn. We can put a do not enter sign coming past O'Reilly's and a no left turn sign there on our property also. So that if they pull out of O'Reilly's, they see it. If they pull out of ours, they see it.
Yeah, the signage aspect is probably critical.
Yeah, that's fine.
Where that location's gonna go.
Yeah, you just want it this side so that if they go to turn from O'Reilly's, they
Or
see it.
even
right
anybody
away.
that starts coming down Hamilton Street, they're gonna realize before they hit,
Yep,
they're
absolutely.
going the wrong way.
The problem comes when they get to the intersection, because anybody pulling in is gonna hit them.
Right. Bob? Chris? Good. Anybody in the audience care to comment or have a question? Okay, with that, you have the last word before we close.
And again, I just appreciate the board's cooperation and courtesy on this, as I always do. And I think this is a unique situation based on the fact that it's been a historically open parking lot with no demarcation along Hamilton Street at all. I believe that the plan is proposed together with the with the stipulations that this board could impose on the variance relative to signage and relative to the strip of, the yellow strip, to better control the parking, certainly will make for a safer environment on Hamilton Street. And I think provide some good closure on that issue, which has existed for a long time.
Okay, great. With that, what's the pleasure of the board? So far, I'm hearing,
So the coming out, that's no left turn coming out there, right? And then
12, so far I'm hearing to
Coming out of
demarc
O'Reilly,
that area with a
no
12-inch
white
yellow strip.
Is that correct?
And to have that maintained on a annual basis, so it stays fresh.
Is there a third one? No. Is there
No.
1, 2, right? Is that the only 2?
The cars are parked all along here.
Okay. Okay. Can you pass that down, Mr. Gonzaga?
So that's going away.
Yeah, that's going away, right, yeah.
Okay, so a couple of these, I'm gonna put this out there, and if it needs to be modified or amended, I can see what we can do. So, based on the discussions, on the top where the one-way only is, it indicates no left turn. So if someone's in the property, whether it's an employee or otherwise, there shall be no left turn, yes.
Yes.
That sign needs to be, I think the size of that sign will need to be coordinated with the highway department for the size of it, and also that it's maintained on an annual basis. If it's worn, it needs to be replaced, of course. And the 12-inch yellow strip shall be freshly maintained on an annual basis, and no cars shall go beyond that strip. Concerning the no-turn sign location, are you looking for a no-turn sign location, or are you looking for one-way do not enter on that street?
No, well, we got written down where you're coming out of O'Reilly's parking lot.
When you're coming out of O'Reilly?
They want a sign on their side that says no right turn, correct? No right turn.
But we also want, I thought we wanted a sign,
And a no left turn coming out of the back of the Hyundai.
we have that.
Yeah, he-
But
yeah, he
what
put
about,
that.
what about for the benefit that if you're not coming out of O'Reilly's, you're coming down Hamilton Street, it should just say one-way,
Do not enter.
do not enter.
From where?
Where you gonna
Yeah,
put
we
that?
put
Well, that's what I'm saying, you're worried, are you more concerned about the O'Reilly's traffic, or are you more concerned about, in general, Hamilton Street coming down that street?
If someone's coming down Hamilton Street, they're on a bender, you're not gonna stop them, you know what I mean, you know?
Is that why you've been doing that?
Yeah. They're on a bender, you're not gonna, you jump out of the way, maybe.
They're
put
not
a
gonna
sign-
move anyway.
Yeah,
He's right, you can't do nothing about that.
It's already at the end.
Say no full turn.
People coming in.
No, personally, I think the yellow striping, the no left turn in the back of the dealership, no right turn coming out of O'Reilly is.
All right, so they have to be pole signs high enough to be
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah, we'll do it
I'd
to
like to, I'd like you to at
state
least
specs.
confirm with the highway department on size.
Absolutely.
And those signs would have to be maintained on an annual basis so that they don't get
You
destroyed.
can put the state specs, they have state specs on all the signage. The height, size of the signs, background, color.
Okay, so I have no consumer parking on Hamilton Street. I have no left turn till the back of the building, we know where that's gonna go. 12-inch yellow strip shall be painted and maintained on a regular basis. And there should be no right-hand turn indicated on the plan, close to the current exit from the O'Reilly's Auto Parts store. And the signs will follow the state specifications. With that, I'll take a motion for that. You have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mark, have a second? Second by Dave or John? Dave, all those in favor? Opposed, that's unanimous.
Thank you, gentlemen.
you.
Appreciate your time
Thank you so
and
much.
your courtesy. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to write this up after the meeting.
There's no way to get into O'Reilly's. Down here. I don't think there is.
How come they never did the buffer when it was done?
Okay,
That's right. Unless there's an entrance in the back.
They're talking coming out of the side entrance of O'Reilly.
we do have,
Is there a side entrance?
Yeah, there's a side entrance.
On Hamilton Street?
Yeah. O'Reilly's, yeah.
you all set?
On these-
We do have a request to withdraw from
I got-
Rockland Trust for 300 East Main Street sign variance. I'll read it.
One entrance.
I'll read it. Please let this email serve as a request to withdraw the petition without prejudice on behalf of Rockland Trust, 288 Union Street, scheduled for a January 10th hearing. This requires a vote. I'll take a motion. Do I have a motion? Motion to approve. No one wants to, no one
Make a
wants?
motion.
Motion by John. That we approve the withdrawal without prejudice. Have a second?
I'll second.
Second by John. All those in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. On to the next one. Next applicant, this is on Hoy and Amelia Vaz for Harding Street. Why don't you get yourself situated while I read the announcement, if I can find it. Did you take it? The agenda. I need the agenda. Okay, this is on the application of Jose and Maria Vaz, 1 Harding Street, Milford, for a variance pursuant to sections 2.4 and or 2.5 of the zoning bylaw. Excuse me, in relation to a parcel of land at 1 Harding Street, Assessors Map 40, Block 14, Lot 9, located in a residential BRB zoning district consisting of a 12,570 square foot parcel of land, more or less, which is owned by the said applicants. The variance is required to construct a 20 by 24 attached garage with 30 feet of front yard setback is required, and 8.2 feet will be adhered to. The application seems to be intact. Concerning a couple of the questions that were asked of the applicant,
Taking the side view.
what circumstances relate to the soil condition, shape, and topography of the subject premises? The applicant states this is a pre-existing non-conforming lot in the IB zone, which requires a 15,000 square foot. This lot's 12,570. It's also a corner lot, which requires a sideline to be the same as the front line. So the existing 28.1 Taft Street sideline is a pre-existing non-conforming use. If the variance was not granted, what hardship would the applicant describe? The parties are getting, the applicant indicates that the parties are getting older. A garage would help in the winter so that they would not need to clean off the vehicles or go out in the cold weather during the warm and run the risk of falling on the ice and snow and causing serious harm. This hardship is due to the shape, topography, and soil conditions of the property that affects this particular lot, but not the zoning district in general. So because the use of the premises as a single-family residence, it will remain unchanged. In fact, moving the driveway from Taft Street to Harding Street, the applicant indicates it may be better and a safer alternative since the existing driveway is around a corner on a blind spot of the street. With that, the planning board did hear this at their the December 18th meeting. They voted unfavorable. See town planning letter. In paraphrasing, the applicant requests the ZBA variance to construct a 20 by 24 attached garage. As a corner lot, the property has 2 front yard setbacks and two side setbacks with no rear side setback required. Specifically, the variance requests the front yard setback on Taft Street be reduced from 30 to 8.2. The house is currently only 28.1 feet from Taft Street, thus already encroaching into the front side setback by 1.9 feet. A narrow single-car garage would create less of an encroachment, therefore they recommend an unfavorable report off to the zoning board. With that, Attorney Ferrer,
Thank you, Mr.
you have the
Chairman,
floor.
Members of the board, my name is Suzette Ferreira. I'm here tonight with Amelia and John Vaz, who live at 1 Harding Street. They're proposing adding a single-story, 2-car garage that would require them to move their existing driveway from Taft Street to entering from Harding Street. I did put up some photographs from Google Maps, and I also did provide a couple of copies just so you could have a better idea of what it looks like. They also have an existing fence that goes around their property. Taft Street has actually become a cut-through now between West Street and Highland Street, and that actually has now become a bit of a dangerous area. There's constantly cars filing around the corner, and where their driveway is, it's right around that corner, and with the fence, it becomes harder to see when they're backing out or, pulling in. There's just a lot of traffic there. So moving the driveway to Harding Street would eliminate that issue, and it would actually be safer because obviously there's a lot less traffic coming on Harding Street. In addition, they would propose landscaping the remainder of the driveway area, and they would even propose, if you look at the pictures that I've given you, they have some trees that go a little bit around the lot. They would propose moving some of those trees from the front, where the new driveway would go, to the side area that would go near where the house would be. Adding some landscape and kind of hiding that area a little bit. Now that Mr. and Mrs. Vaz are retired and they continue to live in New England, they've always wanted a garage, and obviously the need for a garage is becoming more important to them. I did see Mr. Duncan's letter, but obviously for just having a one-car garage, then, you know, they have to decide who's going to get to stay in the garage that night, and I just think that would create more issues. They are also only looking to add a single-story two-car garage, so they're not looking to add any additional living space, no additional bedrooms, or anything like that. So there would absolutely be no impact to the existing neighborhood. This is a house that just is a split level that was never built with a garage in it, so it was not as though they renovated the garage that it used to have. It never had a garage. That's always been a living area. So it's just something that they've always wanted. They actually bought this property in 2013. It's always been pre-existing non-conforming. The fact that they only have 12,000 square feet makes it harder for this lot to already conform to the existing zoning requirements. And in addition, the fact that this is a corner lot and now they're stuck with the front line also being a sideline requirement, again, makes it harder to comply with zoning. So with that, I would like the board to consider granting their variance. If you look at their lot, they really don't have any other option of where to add this two-car garage, and we believe that adding it to this side of the Taft side of the house is their best option.
Okay. I'll start down at, with Timmy. I may have a couple of questions and maybe even a recommendation, but I'll start with Tim.
No questions right now.
Okay, John?
No, just that I'm familiar with the property, and Mr. Vaz does keep his property in very, very good condition. And does a nice job taking care of his home, so I would just add that.
I'm all set.
John?
I'm all set.
Mark?
All set.
All set.
All set? Everybody's all set. I just have a question.
Sure.
Why do I always have a question?
Because you wouldn't be
What are
you
you
if you
tapping,
didn't.
what are you tapping him over there for? 'Cause I have a
My
question.
shoulder was really sore.
You're showing a 20-foot wide garage. Did you think about doing a tandem garage with a double garage door?
I think
And then he goes out to, one way out, one way in?
I don't really think they thought about that. I think even in that case, I still think now they would have the back requirement. I still don't think that they would be in conformity to the back setback if now you have a tandem garage that jets
Setback
back.
on this? The rear's 25.
You're saying
Front's,
there's a one-car garage
front's
and
30.
now jet to the backyard instead, and now you guys would have to park one behind
Is it
you.
a 12-foot wide garage, David?
If you do, yeah, I'm just thinking, if you think outside the box a little bit, you do a 12-foot wide garage, double deep, and you stack the car, you can actually bring the garage, you have enough room here in frontage to bring the proposed 16-foot garage, bring it in about 6 feet, or up about 5 or 6 feet, and then you'll have enough room in the back. You'll be able to probably hit the back lot line as well. And then you could come in from Harding and just go out to Taft.
I guess aesthetically, that wouldn't be the best option because now you are changing the shape of the house and making it a little bit different than the rest of the neighborhood.
And you
So they
have
did
two-
just.
What is the setback anyway? You're gonna gain it from 8.2 to 16?
Well, if you go to 16, it just improves the setback
Yeah,
from
it
that
still
side,
doesn't meet
that's
the
all.
requirement, right?
My question is, do you need 22 feet? Would you like 22 feet? 'Cause-
Well, this says 20.
20.
The plan shows
No, I know,
20.
but I'm saying we can make it 20. Do you need another 2 feet? It's kind of tight, you know?
For two cars.
Do you need another 2 feet?
Doing a 22 instead of 20 feet.
2 by 24.
I mean, obviously, if they could make it bigger, it would be to their benefit, but obviously, they didn't want to make it even more encroaching
Maybe it'd
than.
be real, it would be 6 feet.
Well, I know, but I'm in favor of giving them 22 feet. If it, man, sometimes 10 feet's tight. You know, if you eat a lot at dinner, you might not be able to squeeze between the cars.
It'll be a single door,
What
right?
is it going on with you tonight?
We're not gonna go the wrong way in Hamilton Street tonight,
I might see if Coach is out there, I might try it, you don't know.
The shed is, that shed that's back there, is that gonna be raised and removed?
Well, honestly, when they
Now that
bought
you
the
have the
property,
garage.
when they bought the property, those two sheds were already there. They did not put those sheds in. Obviously, until they started drawing this plan and coming before the board for the garage issue, they had no idea that those sheds were also non-conforming. So, they are non-conforming, but his yard is fully fenced in. You can't even see from the photographs that I provided you that there is a shed on that side of the property. So their hope would be that they wouldn't have to move any of the pre-existing sheds that were already there, but, I mean, if there is an issue, I could obviously have the conversation, because now they are having a garage, so they would have a little bit more storage space, but, you know, that was just an issue that came up as they were preparing this plan for the meeting, because they were not aware that those sheds were also non-conforming, but I think that goes with the fact that this whole parcel is non-conforming, and I do have a copy of the assessor's building card, and it looks like those sheds were built in 1970, because I do see permits pulled for them in 1970.
There's others up there that are close to the line as well.
Exactly, yep.
Any other comments, questions?
I would say that a lot of those homes in that area don't meet the 15,000 square foot requirement.
Okay, I think, does anybody in the audience care to be heard on this application? If not, and the board members don't have any other questions, you have the last word before we close the hearing.
Thank you. I would suggest to the board that the benefit of moving the driveway from Taft Street to Harding Street far outweighs the fact that the proposed addition would be too close to the lot lines, and I would ask the board that they would approve the request for the variance.
Okay, great, thank you. Pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion to grant it at 22 feet.
We have a motion on the table to grant it at 22 feet. Is there a second?
I'll second.
That will be a single two-story structure. There'll be nothing that would be allowed above that. It would just strictly be the garage itself. And there's a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Good luck. Be safe out there. You gonna get this garage up before the winter? I hope.
I don't know about that.
All right, take care. Is that, you know, the appeal process, okay.
Yep.
And the days, yeah, it'll be safe, it'll be safe. No question, it'll be safe.
Good guy, Dave Pine is.
Hey, listen. You park the cars in like 2
Hold on, safer.
It's not open yet.
You didn't get invited?
It's still, I try to keep
Okay,
it
we're off
secret,
to,
but I'm gonna
this I
have
think
big
is our last
parties,
hearing.
springtime, we open snow, lobster, everything else they fish with.
Agenda go again.
No, but I've heard that.
John, I knew he was building it.
Okay, this is on the application of Master Collision Center, 75 High Street, Upton for special permit pursuant to the provisions of sections 1.1 and/or 2.3 of the zoning bylaws in relation to a parcel of land, 288 West Street, assessors map 37, lot 9, located in the commercial CC zoning district, consisting of 47,000 plus square feet of land, which parcel is owned by EPO Building in Hopedale. A special permit required to operate an automotive-related business, auto body collision repairs, as well as used car sales within the zoning district. With that, there's a lengthy explanation here. I have we have a motion to dispense with the reading as long as it's similar as what's going to be presented.
To make a
Motion
motion.
by John, I have a second by Mark. All those in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. I will read into the record the planning board's comments. Planning board reviewed the petition listed above at the regular scheduled hearing on December 18th and recommends the following favorable. See town planner letter. Town planner letter indicates the applicant requests ZBA permit to utilize the rear commercial building for an automotive-related business on the subject property. Section 2.3 of the zoning bylaw requires a special permit for auto-related uses in CZ zone.
Yeah,
The
so-
proposed building will include auto body, collision business, as well as used car sales. The front building on the property is for office use and is currently vacant. The proposed use appears to generally meet applicable divisions of the zoning bylaw, provided that the maximum number of unregistered vehicles does not exceed 10. Therefore, I recommend a favorable report to be forwarded up to the zoning board. An amended site plan will need to be approved by the planning board should the special permit be issued. With that, Attorney Antonellis, the floor is yours.
Good, again, thank you for purpose of introduction. Joseph Antonellis on behalf of the applicant. With me to my left is Brian Hassett from Gary Aaron Hallen, who has done the site development plan, and behind me, Mylan, who is Master Collision, presently operating an auto body shop in Upton, has been successful over there, seeking to expand his business. Marlon intends, and Marlon's wife is not here tonight, but it's a family-run business. Marlon would seek your permission to use the rear building, which is shown on the plan, for the purpose of conducting auto body work, not general mechanical. The intention is for it to be an auto body shop. Marlon is well aware of the state regulations relative to exhaust and for painting and all of the kinds of safety features that will have to be placed in that building, is certainly willing to make those efforts. At the same time, because his business sometimes provides him with an opportunity to sell vehicles that he's repaired, we will seek a Class 2 license from the Board of Selectmen. So we would ask that you approve it conditionally, obviously, upon the issuance of a Class 2 license, but we would like you to include it in the special permit. A note from the town planner's letter that he wanted it limited to 10 unregistered vehicles. Those 10 would tend to be the vehicles that one would say are subject to sale under the Class 2 license. We're showing an area if you look at the plan to the left, Brian's pointing at it now, that we have designated for parking of the vehicles that would otherwise be repaired by Marlin. There will not be wrecked vehicles left out in front. And then we have adequate parking spaces, we believe, near the house. Now, the house has traditionally been used as a daycare, and we have that listed as the use because there really hasn't been much else that's gone on there since. But Marlin's intention for the present time would be to use that building as the central office point for his auto body shop here, as well as for his the Upton Enterprise, and as the place for processing paperwork under the Class 2 license. I think you're all familiar with the site. The tradesman is our abutter to the left. The abutters to the right are other users. That the property is a little bit different. And
Joe, can I interrupt you a
yes.
second? Is this the property that Harry O'Deesian at one time had approved for a gas station?
I have a copy of that in my file. There was a special permit that was issued by the zoning board for an attendant service gas station with, I think, a car wash. It was going to be quite a development. It was obviously never built. There are other parcels, there are other buildings that are accessed from this property, but are not used. They are not on this property. So Marlon and his wife will be purchasing the parcel that you see outlined on our plan, okay? They buy it subject to the easement of the other buildings for the right to access.
So the building to the right over
Right.
there, the access, that's how you get to that
Comes
building?
through our parking lot, and Mr. Pine, there's also a building to the rear in the woods that you don't see, but I think the top photo, you can see the top of it. Okay? And
So
again,
that access is from this site.
straight up through, that's correct. So our purchase and sales agreement and our ability to purchase is subject to existing easements for egress for the other two buildings. We don't anticipate any issues with that. We will not generate a lot of traffic volume ourselves. I think you're all aware of what the auto body industry is. People's cars are brought there usually by way of a tow truck, and nobody comes until the day it's ready. And again, while the used car sales will be incidental to the business, we don't expect any traffic from that also.
Are the other two buildings, the buildings back in the woods and the one off to the right, are those condoed or are those a separate lot?
Those are separate lots.
Two separate lots or one separate lot?
I'm not certain. I think
They're
it's
two separate
two
lots.
separate lots.
Two separate
Right.
lots, so with both travel easements to
Right,
get to those
through.
two lots?
That's correct.
So is this I'm kind of confused, so these two buildings are on one lot
Correct.
with an easement to get to the back.
That services two other parcels of property, each of which have one building on it. That's
Okay,
correct.
and this is, so both of these buildings are gonna use for the automotive?
That's correct.
A lease, is that what it is, a lease or an acquisition? A lease?
We're purchasing the property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, both buildings on this plan are gonna be used?
Will be used by my client for the purpose of that business.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
And as I think this board knows, any further change would require site plan approval anyway, once we get through it, or a modification of the special permit. But right now, the pleasure of my client is to control the use of both of those buildings by he and his wife for their present businesses.
Okay.
That would be the two-story garage office and the two-story daycare center.
That's correct.
The two-story daycare center, that, I know it's empty, but what is it, what's actually in it?
Now, it's going to
I mean,
serve
is
as
it
an,
like a-
it was, I don't mean to interrupt, sorry,
That's
Mr.
right.
Calzada, but it was originally a house. It was a residence.
Okay, I guess that's why
And so
question's
it's-
gonna come back to.
And residences are not allowed in that district, so that's, the use of,
Right.
that use was abandoned quite a while ago, and it was a daycare center, and then that daycare center folded.
No plans whatsoever to use it as some type of apartment or anything like that.
No, because it's not allowed, and to
don't.
the best of my knowledge, the present owner has been using it for office purposes for himself.
Okay.
Again, you can see, we also brought some aerials to show the other uses in the property. We got Plains Automotive across the street, which is, is a very successful and busy automobile repair and sales place. And we also have Old Time Automobile Sales, which is part of what the Milford Woodworking was. And, Rudy has expanded and sells trucks and does the plow outfitting and everything there. So we're really in an area where our use is similar to the other uses in the area.
Okay, Tim, have any questions? Nope. John?
No.
Dave?
No.
John?
Nope.
Mark?
No.
Bob?
Yeah, the proposed landscape area, can you go into detail about what that's gonna be?
So,
We're
just trying, go ahead, Brian.
We don't have a specific plantings plan or something, but we just know that a 15-foot strip is what's desired, so that's what we're providing.
And-
Whatever would need to go there, I think planning board could determine that, and really honestly kind of direct us on what they would like to see.
He'll tell you what they need, yeah.
Yeah, and they'll tell us on the height of the plants based on sight lines coming in and out, but we will be able to provide it, so we're not seeking any other zoning relief.
Is that island, is that there now?
Yes.
Is it a raised island, or what?
It's
Curbed, or?
there's I believe there is a bituminous curb around the side, or berm around
Planning
it.
board may make him do it all over.
Okay. And the arrows that are on the plan now, they're just to notify us of the direction of vehicles, the black arrows?
Yep, those are actual markings that you can actually faintly see one here on the aerial photo. There is an arrow going in and out for.
Throughout the property, there are about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 arrows. I think that, I don't know if you have plans of putting them, yellow or white, but it seems to me there's gonna be other traffic going through. So it might not be a bad idea for those to be on the ground and maintained periodically.
That's not an issue.
Yeah, they're gonna probably need to do a dumpster location too for this.
And I also know that I believe there's a fence on the side of the tradesmen, that the last time I was there was in disrepair. Do you have any plans of cleaning that up, if you will? I know there were a couple of panels that looked pretty,
Is it on our property or on the tradesman's?
I don't know. I want to say it's
I'm
on,
not sure either.
yeah.
I believe it's
Which
on this
side it
property.
falls.
I think it is on this property, from what I,
like 2 panels down, so we plan to fix that.
Yeah, I would say that would all be.
To the extent that
Okay.
the fence is in disrepair, it will be repaired.
okay.
Anybody else? Chris?
I do not, Mark?
Nope.
Anybody in the audience care to be heard? Yes, sir.
James Otto, I have no problem. I was asking Harry about the property over there, 'cause there's 4 buildings over there. I mean, I'm over there every day, so I see what's going on. But I was trying to figure out how he's gonna do, where he's gonna put, like, the house is just a regular split entry house. I know it's been empty, And then the other one, he has like a little detail guy there. I was just wondering how he was gonna fit a body shop and spray booth and all the equipment in a little two-bay. But the main thing, I was wondering how he's gonna park the cars, because the guy out in the big building in the back, that's guy's called, Metal Mirrors.
He's got-
details tractor trailers. So they're in and out of there all the time up in the middle, and the guys are having problems turning around. Not that they gotta cut through, but Harry's other building, the other one up in the back, there's a lot of traffic cuts through the middle, and I think this, I don't know, I don't have a problem with it. Rudy's over there.
You wanna see this?
Yeah, I'll take a quick peek at how he's gonna park his car.
And I think the detail center is leaving.
Yeah, he's saying
gone.
that's throw him out if he moves
So
in there.
this is, he's gonna be occupying the whole building.
That's correct.
Yeah, 'cause see, the other
And
guys-
he's buying it, it's not a lease.
Yeah, that's what he said.
We have a
That's no
PS.
big deal. I mean, I don't have a problem with whatever. But I was just seeing how the other building in the back. Oh, so he's buying this, he's cutting off over here. This is where the big truck guy is out back, right?
right,
Metal
right, yep.
Mirrors, and that's his other office buildings. Yeah, so the big trucks, this is all paved in here now, so, because they do like tractor trails and stuff, so the guys usually drop the trailers in over here, or they pull in, they'll turn around, or they'll pull in this way and back in to get in there. So I was just seeing how he was gonna set up his cars so they can get through there without a,
Well, they certainly have the lane in there, so the planning board's gonna have to control that whole site plan.
oh yeah, let's say, yeah, well, yeah, as long as he has his little cut through to the middle, he should be all right.
And we don't expect,
I
we'll,
just didn't know how much of the, how many buildings he was occupying.
Right. Okay. Anybody else care to be heard? Any other comments? With that, last word.
thank you. I've had the opportunity to make a presentation. Thank the board for your time and consideration. And again, we recognize that the Class 2 license will not exist unless and until the selectmen approve that. That's within their jurisdiction. But again, to the extent that one could include that in the special permit, we would appreciate that, so that when we go up to the selectmen, they know we have a right to be
So
there.
this is auto body repair.
That's correct.
Not automotive repair?
No, I checked with Marlon before we walked in. He's not a mechanical shop.
Okay.
And there'll be no cars in disarray out in the parking lot. They're just,
Yeah, there's gonna be, we're gonna condition this, there's no automotive parts out there, we'll condition.
When understood.
Yeah,
The site-
especially where the new cars, these used cars are gonna be selling.
Right.
You don't wanna have,
Junk, right.
right, cars waiting to be repaired, sitting in those spots.
It's a great opportunity for Marlon and his wife, and I think you'll be pleased with the manner in which this property is maintained.
Okay, so I'll take a stab at this, and if the board members like it, we can vote on it. So first of all, it's gonna be subject to a Class 2 license, parking not to exceed 10 cars, based on what the planning board can authorize.
cars for sale.
Cars for sale, right. This is strictly an auto body shop. This is not an automotive repair shop. And the other aspect is, based on past, no auto parts shall be dispersed on the site. And if there's a section where, similar to other auto body locations, if there's a wrecked car or something like that, that has to be, I would recommend you put it behind a fence location, maybe on the side of the building, but again, the biggest issue is that with these type of uses is there's no automotive parts whatsoever allowed on the outside of the property.
Understood.
Similar to the other one up the street, I think they have a fenced area on certain stuff for
Fenced
inventory.
area plus a dumpster.
Property is
fenced in.
visible, the property is visible from West Street, Route 140, and I think that this board and my client both want the property to look presentable
Right.
to everyone.
Okay, with that, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mark, have a second.
Second.
Second by John, all those in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous.
Again, thank you.
Thank you. With that.
Good luck.
Is there a motion? Motion to adjourn, all those in favor? Opposed, unanimous. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a great night.